Hello and welcome to another update video about Bitcoin. In this video I would like to show you the long-term charts. I'll show you the long-term Bitcoin, long-term Bitcoin log chart. I want to show you both. The log chart is not a chart that I use on a daily basis. It is just a long-term chart I have because I need to observe it, of course, as well as an analyst. I cannot rely only on the linear chart. I tend to use the linear chart, especially with cryptos, but the log chart, especially looking at long-term chart developments, has its benefits as well. Especially when I analyze stocks and shares, I use the log chart because many of them have a long-term chart history and you just can't recognize the waves if you do not use the log chart. For example, if I analyze something like Apple, I need to use the log chart. Certainly there is no right or wrong. There are many Elliott Wave analysts who use the log chart. There are some who use only linear. I tend to have a more flexible approach. I think the linear chart is more accurate, especially on the shorter time frame, but certainly the log chart cannot be ignored. And in the original Elliott Wave, not in the original Elliott Wave book, but in the Frost and Prechter Elliott Wave principle book, they also highlight that, there isn't really a right or wrong. You need to understand which asset adheres better to which chart and then just use the one that is currently adhered to better. Therefore, I'm observing the log chart. I don't use it on a daily basis. I think the linear chart is still the one that I mainly use, but nevertheless, I cannot ignore the log chart. And therefore, I wanted to show you on both charts today the wave count long term, because short term, to be honest, not much happens. And weekend is always a bit boring, even though Bitcoin runs according to script at the moment. So, of course, we take a look at the shorter time frame as well. So this is the long-term log chart for Bitcoin. We start with that. Shows you an entire price history of Bitcoin. On the log chart, you just see the waves very nicely. On the linear chart, you don't. Okay, so again, there are analysts who focus on the log chart only. There are analysts who focus on the linear chart. I think you need to have a bit more of a flexible approach, and I prefer the linear chart most of the times. However, again, we observe this one as well. We can't ignore it. Need to know what could be happening. So we have here on this chart in very early days a wave 1, right? And then a wave 2. And a rally in a third wave, which peaked in 2021. Now, you can see that within the third wave, we have in yellow the 5-wave structure, subwaves, okay, which took us to a new all-time high. And the question here is, and it's a bit of up for debate, okay, does the third wave sit here? Then I would just need to count this differently. Or does the third wave sit here? Both are possible. Don't necessarily like the third wave here, even though I have it on the chart to show you the bearish count as well. But because this looks more like an overshooting B wave here. You will remember the overshooting B wave in November 21, but that doesn't really matter so much long term. So I'll leave it here for now because I wanted to use this chart to show you the bearish scenario as well. At the moment, I lean towards the idea that the fourth wave was the low that we made in November 22. So that is the same on the linear chart as well. On the linear chart, though, it's a wave 2. Okay, so here you see the difference. Here on the log chart, I'm counting a wave 4. On the linear chart, I'm counting a wave 2, which came down in November 22. Now, of course, I also don't know, is the bear market low in or not? At the moment, I'm leaning towards that view, as long as bullish support levels are holding, that I've mentioned many times. But in the bearish view, if the third wave really set here in November 21 or October 21, then price came down only in an A wave. We're currently doing a B wave, which will have resistance in this area around 32,590 and 49,970 in a B wave, and could then sell off still in a C wave. So the bearish count, I see, that's why I cannot say the bear market is definitely over, because there is still the allowance for such a bearish count. Okay, just be aware. So when we move higher and we see strong resistance in this area, one of these levels, that's why I observe this chart also very closely. It's time for a bit of a warning, but for now I'm just I prefer the wave 4 is already in here on the log chart, and that we're moving up next in a wave 5. And target wise, I tend to rely more on the linear chart for that next high, and I'm looking at 125k roughly. Now the question is, we don't really know that yet, but the question is, the next all-time high, is that going to be this wave 1? Yeah, and then we get a wave 2 setback, okay, maybe again to 40k or something, and then we rally higher. Or is this going to be already all of the 5-wave move? Yeah. And we see a massive crash afterwards. Because don't get me wrong, this wave 5 will be the end of a larger cycle. Yeah. So I still need to get some clarity around that. So if we end the larger cycle after this 5-wave move, it can crash down afterwards. Okay. Which wouldn't be bearish, but it would mean, okay, a larger cycle is over, more volatility, cheaper prices coming. Okay. I need to observe that closer. We need to get better understanding of the subwave structure. I'm currently leaning towards the idea that it will be this wave 1 that takes us to a new all-time high. Then we get a wave 2. Then we get a wave 3. Then we get a wave 4. Then a wave 5. And only then the cycle is over. That will take years, but we'll see. I'll keep you updated about that. That's the log chart. On the linear chart, if I go to the daily chart, you get to a different count. Okay, you get this 1 2 1 2 1 2 setup, which also is very bullish. I think it's worth observing both. Yeah, so 1 2 1 2 1 2 setup with an overshooting B wave. Again, also here it's up for debate. You know, did it sit here or here? But I prefer this count with an overshooting B wave in November 21, and then here the wave 2 to the downside, and we could now rally in a third wave, and there should be a fourth and a fifth wave. Disregard the timing down there. Yeah, disregard it. Elliott Wave is not anything that you can use for timing. And a third wave, a fourth and a fifth. Do a larger third, a fourth and a fifth. So it should cascade higher. But that would not be too much out of sync with a linear chart, to be honest. If you say, okay, maybe we get something like that on the log chart, a 5-wave move up could even be an ending diagonal. On the linear chart, it looks like this, right? Where you do this structure here, okay, higher. Okay, so again, we just need to observe them both. I think in the end we'll see which one was right, but it's worth having them both on the radar. But on the short term, first of all, they don't differ much, and there isn't really a right or wrong officially, and I think it's just important to have a flexible approach there. But it's worth observing them both. But on the linear chart, I tend on the smaller time frames, I tend to use the linear chart. But again, there isn't much difference on the smaller time frames. Yeah, so looking at that now on the shorter time frame, we talked about it. That off the 10th of March low, price rose in a wave 1, came down in a wave 2, and we have this WXY structure. In this WXY structure, one more low would be needed to complete it. But I showed you an alternative count as well, a different ending diagonal count where the overall low for Bitcoin could already be in this current wave 2 correction. But we need to see now, can Bitcoin form a 5-wave move up? Until it doesn't form that 5-wave move to the upside, you have a bit of a trap going on. Okay, well, not necessarily a trap, but it's just, I need to see confirmation. I've said that many times. Until I have that confirmation, I cannot confirm to you that the low is in. I can simply, as an analyst, stress the potential that the low is in. We're tracking that. I've talked to you, shown you in every step here what are the support levels that need to hold. It did hold the small support area down here. It is now holding our wave 4 support area here as well. So that's good. It reacted to the 23.6 Fibonacci retracement and has already left the trend reversal area to the upside, which is potentially bullish. But the orange count is the count that needs to happen to confirm that a low has been made. So I need to see first 5 waves up, and then I need to see an ABC structure to the downside. Going to highlight that in orange as well. That's what I need to see as a cycle to confirm that an overall low has been made. Okay. Until then, it's very likely it's only doing the yellow wave count, which would then break down afterwards and make a new low around 24K here, 24.5K. But that could then end this larger wave 2 correction. Now, at the moment, the move up looks corrective, so it doesn't look impulsive. All right, so it could just simply be that this wave 4 is still in the making, and we had an A wave down, maybe as a leading diagonal, a B wave in a 3-wave structure, reacting to the fib level range that is relevant probably. So yeah, reacted to the 78.6 fib level here, or the 61.8, yeah, and it's now coming down. So at the moment, this looks as if we get a bit of a deeper wave 4, and the ideal target for a wave 4 is typically anyway the 38.2 fib level at 26.1 or 26,160. Yeah, but you know, this is just a micro count. To keep it very simple, as long as Bitcoin is holding 25,970 or 969, the focus overall could be on higher, and we need to see, and it has a chance to develop that 5-wave impulse. Well, below 25,969, it will get much more likely that it will break down and come down in the yellow count. But it's not all hope is not lost then. It could still have developed as a leading diagonal, which is a less reliable pattern. So would need to see extended proof then. But then if it then still makes a higher low somewhere above the 78.6 retracement, it could still rally afterwards, but it's just a less reliable count. Ideally, to form a reliable impulse, it needs to hold the 50% fib level. That's my update about Bitcoin. Hope you liked the update. If you did, please hit the like button, leave a comment and subscribe. And if you really like the content, then please check out the channel membership. Don't forget, today we have our member live stream at 5 o'clock UTC, 5 p.m. If you're interested in joining that, check out the channel membership and also make sure you follow us on Instagram and Twitter. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye-bye.